We have about a month or so before we launch our optimized schedule, the first phase of what we call Metrolink Reimagined.
Now, why the comparison with the MBTA? It's not because they're both purple. It's not because Metrolink is so underfunded that they're using 50-year-old freight locomotives. And it's not because they have a system map that's so confusing that they can't decide what is the main station downtown. Like, imagine if half the lines terminated at Pico Aliso. That's Boston for you. It's because they're following after their implementation of a clock-face schedule, making it easier to make timed connections at Union Station, and making it easier to plan your trips, which is something I always appreciated about the Escondido Sprinter, because it's easy to remember that they always leave at the 3 and the 33 past the hour from Oceanside.
One of the star railroads in that space in the United States in the last few years has been MBTA. It was basically fully recovered from before the pandemic. MBTA went all in on these kind of strategies, flatter service, serving more types of travel across the day. That has paid dividends for them.
This is one of the main points of the schedule update this October, which is the first phase of the Metrolink Reimagined campaign. Which is an important note because it's the first phase. It's not the magic wand that's suddenly going to turn Metrolink into Japan or Amsterdam.
It has only begun.
In fact, this schedule update doesn't even affect weekend service, with one exception that I'm actually very excited for, and we'll get into that.
We go from having 67 trains that come into Union Station, where we have a transfer that's 10 to 20 minutes, to 225 trains that have that level of connection.
Over the top!
Now, the name Metrolink Reimagined is referring to a change in Metrolink's identity from a commuter rail to a regional rail, where in the beginning the focus was mainly on getting people who live in the suburbs to where they work in LA. Nowadays, that's not necessarily the case. People have different schedules, people want to use trains for things besides getting to work, so adding more trains throughout the day and having this time transfer in LA is important to making this possible. So without further ado, let's look at each line individually and look at the changes. What we're looking at is how many trains go the full length of the route, and then the range of times that the schedule spans. First up is the Ventura County line. Trains now both arrive and depart LA half past the hour, and it looks like one additional round trip to Chatsworth has been added. One thing to note here is the trips that go the full length to and from Ventura used to only be in the peak time of day, and now they shifted it so there's a train off-peak the full length. The time range has also improved, as you can now get to LA earlier and leave much, much later, but the new late train only goes up to Moorpark. This is all not counting the Amtrak codeshare trains, which are unchanged it seems. That's one of the most confusing things about Metrolink is the rail-to-rail program. Basically, if you have a Metrolink monthly pass, you can ride Amtrak between those station pairs on the Pacific Surfliner, but there's also these special trains on the Ventura County line called codeshare, where you can use a regular Metrolink ticket. It's a mess, and really sounds like something I need to make a Chris Brown parody song about. Is it codeshare or rail-to-rail? Okay, maybe not. Next we'll look at the Antelope Valley line. This one has actually not changed except the short-run trains that used to end at Via Princesa now go to Vista Canyon, though they didn't seem to change this on the weekend schedule. Trains arrive to LA 20 past the hour and depart LA 39 past the hour, and this was a change that was actually implemented last year on this line. The San Bernardino line got so much stuff added to it that it now takes up 2 rows on the page. Wait, let me fix that. There we go. You'll notice that they added a ton of service between LA and Covina, which confused me at first, but apparently there's a demand for it, I guess. 10 round trips between LA and Covina were added, and actually 1 full-length trip to San Bernardino was removed. The time range into LA didn't change very much, but LA to San Bernardino, the earliest train leaves later, and the latest train leaves earlier, so that one actually got worse. Trains arrive to LA 20 and 50 past the hour, except that one express train, and they depart LA 8 and 38 past the hour. And it looks like the Aero trains were adjusted to connect better with the new San Bernardino times. The Riverside Line now arrives to LA 25 past the hour and departs 35 past the hour. The range did improve as you can now get to LA earlier and depart later, but the range for the reverse commute train to LA got worse, being 2 hours earlier. And they actually reduced the number of trains on this line, which I've reserved my full opinions for on my full video on the Riverside Line coming out later this week, where we go deep into why this line is so terrible. Moving down to Orange County, the 91 Perris Valley Line arrives to LA 29 past the hour and departs on the 33. 2 additional inbound trains have been added, and the 2 short-run outbound trains have been extended all the way to Perris. The inbound time range has improved slightly, though the outbound has disimproved, but the trade-off here is there's no longer a massive gap in service in the middle of the day. Next, the Orange County Line. Trains arrive to LA on the 20 and depart on the 40. 3.5 round trips to Mission Viejo were added. The time range out of LA improved significantly, as well as the latest inbound train, though the number of outbound trains stopping at Commerce was reduced. Here we also see the massive midday gap in service removed, where the longest time between trains is now 3 hours instead of 7. And lastly, our fabled suburb-to-suburb line, the Inland Empire Orange County Line. Trains depart Riverside on the 10 and arrive on the 50. 2 round trips were added, though you'll notice now only the peak hour trains go all the way to San Bernardino, and only 1 train per day goes all the way to Oceanside per direction, when it used to be 2. But also, no more massive midday gap in service. And on the weekends, the latest train out of Oceanside departs 2 hours later for more beach fun, more long bike rides, more barbecues, and it'll be great. But does it connect with the San Bernardino line? No. Does it connect with the 91 line? Yes. Another note about this update is they added a 1 to the prefix of all the weekend trains. So instead of train 860, it's now 1860. I don't know why they did that. The other question I had about this update was, since it's so focused on the transfer at Union Station, what does the transfer look like in Riverside and San Bernardino? I'll try to make this as painless as possible. The one that I care the most about, Riverside East to 91 East, for my camping trips and garage sale adventures, is currently a convenient 10-minute transfer in Riverside with 3 possible train options. In the new schedule, this is now a negative 3-minute transfer, which, if that doesn't include any padding, really means it's a 57-minute transfer, but still 3 possible options. And then Riverside East to 91 West, there's a single 2-hour transfer in the middle of the day, and after that you miss them all. Then for 91 West to Riverside West, there's 2 50-minute transfers in the morning, and midday there's an hour and 50-minute transfer. Then 91 East to Riverside West, there's also one midday that's an hour and 50 minutes. Riverside East to IEOC South can transfer midday at an hour and 4 minutes, and in the evening at 4 minutes. Riverside East to IEOC North can transfer 4 times at a rate of 44 minutes. Then IEOC South to Riverside West in the morning has 3 possible options, also at 44 minutes. And I think that's it for this one. IEOC South to 91 West can transfer 4 times in the morning at 49 minutes. IEOC South to 91 East can transfer once at 2 hours in the morning. IEOC North to 91 East can transfer 3 times in 13 minutes in the afternoon. IEOC North to 91 West can transfer in 1 minute in West Corona, 3 times in the morning, and in the afternoon 2 times at an hour and 1 minute. But really, if you're going to do this, you might as well just take the OC line. But if Placentia Station's ever going to exist, I won't ignore this option. And then probably most impressively, 91 West to IEOC South can transfer 5 times in 9 minutes in the morning, and twice in the afternoon at an hour and 9 minutes. And then 91 West to IEOC North is possible in the afternoon if you want to wait an hour and 49 minutes, which at that point you might as well just take the RTA 200 bus. And I'm not going to go into all the possible combinations at Union Station, because I'll just wait for a higher resolution version of this chart to come out that I couldn't find, and that'll save me a lot of trouble. So get out there, ride some trains. That's how Metrolink knows their stuff is good, or if you hate the new schedule, leave them some feedback. Personally, I was bitter at first because I lived the closest to the Riverside Line, which actually got worse, but the more I look into this might actually be the most monumental Metrolink schedule update that's ever happened. Having this level of service is a game changer, especially for Ventura County and the Orange County lines, to no longer have that massive gap in service in the middle of the day. And yes, I know the schedule is probably still mediocre by global standards, but it's so much better than what we had before. Even though compromises had to be made, as they always do, I think this is a good step forward. Now, if only we could remove the obstacle to the Riverside line being good.